When dealing with a falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Brainstorm Podcast Skeptic Studio, the interview portion of the Brainstorm Podcast where we talk to a variety of folks with the intent to spread critical thinking, compassion, and skepticism. I'm Cory, and my panel tonight are Angela.
Hello.
Sarah.
Hello.
Lisa will be joining us soon. And, of course, the always amazing Dave doing sound.
Hey.
And we are broadcasting live from Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is October 12th, 2018. Tonight's guest is Kevin, one of the hosts of the shows This Week in News and This Week in History with Kevin and Benedict. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. You guys didn't tell me you're from Regina, because I could have written some jokes about that name.
They've probably been already written. It would have been a waste of a Post-it.
They've all been told.
They write themselves.
Oh, I told you about the Post-it.
Yeah, you did. You did, Kevin.
It's a process.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I like scraps of paper as much as the next guy. I will not judge you for Post-its.
All right.
So I guess a good place to start would be maybe a little bit of your background. Like, where are you from? What do you do? And what got you into podcasting?
Well, you see, I was born in the middle of a thunderstorm back in October 1991. And no, I'm from, I grew up in Sacramento, California, which is the capital of California. A lot of people don't know that. They assume it's L.A. or San Francisco. And I started off my life, two conservative parents, and in high school I took a hard right, very hard right. I was alt-right before it was cool, is how I like to say it. And along the way, so after high school, I spent a few years as a heavy equipment mechanic, and then went back to community college. And somewhere in that process, I started turning into Mr. Leftard liberal that I am now. And ended up going to UC Berkeley, the most liberal place on earth, TM. And now am in law school, 3 years away from being one of those law-talking guys. So that's nice. My background. As far as our podcast goes, I met Benedict through, we were both writing for a website that a mutual friend of ours had started. It was sort of one of those shitlordy atheist websites, sort of right-wing feminism is cancer type places. We didn't really jive with that very well, but we held on for a while and tried to change it a little bit, but that didn't work. So we eventually started a podcast together there. That was the first form of our show until I, because I'm such a people person. Everyone loves me. Ended up getting kicked out by the guy who was our mutual friend that started the website. Over let's just say disagreements, and then we went and started our own website and then kept the show going, and we've been having fun ever since.
So how long has that been that you've been going?
Where are we coming up on? I think we're coming up on 2 years this spring, so not an incredibly long time, but we've put down plenty of shows and. Yeah, I get on and talk to my best friend for an hour or two every week, so I have a ton of fun with that. I mean, how podcasting is. It's all about enjoying yourself, right? If the audience wants to listen, that's great too. But this is about me. This is all about me.
Right.
It's a big circle jerk.
Yeah.
Party of
basically, yeah.
However many are at the table.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm alone here. You guys are having the real fun over there, but
yeah.
I'm
it's a
breaking the fifth
rectangle
wall
jerk.
here. I am all alone. We are not actually all in the same room right now. So just so everyone knows.
Despite how good the audio sounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, amazing Dave.
No, that's not me. That's amazing internet.
Amazing internet.
Thanks, Al Gore.
Al Gore. Yes.
Yes.
I'll thank him.
So, what do you figure stopped you from being a right-wing guy and becoming an SJW libtard cuck?
Soy boy.
That is a question. That is a question I do get a lot, right? When I go on other people's shows and stuff and I give them a little story, people always want to ask about that. And to be honest, I don't 100% know. I always say there's a variety of factors that played into it. One of them, probably growing up Catholic, where you're just racked with guilt and self-doubt anyways. That sort of plays into questioning religion and all that to begin with. Another part of it for me was going to community college, meeting people, trying to get in the pants of all these liberal girls, and spending so much time with those sort of groups that eventually I was just like, wow, everyone that Fox News told me to hate is actually real human beings. It's crazy.
Go figure, eh?
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Who would think? Who would think? You would never imagine. And another part, there's just so many different factors that went into it. But another one that I always highlight is Patton Oswalt.
Oh yeah,
the greatest comedian to ever live. Right. So
He's
back in the day, we didn't have these fancy things like Spotify. We just had Pandora Radio. Right. Back in the ancient times of the late 2000s. And so I would listen to comedy on Pandora. And so I had like the Patton Oswalt station because I liked his stuff. And a lot of Patton stuff is non-political. It's not religious. But a lot of his stuff is. And on Pandora, you have a limited number of skips. And eventually you run out. And you have to listen to those segments that you usually skip over because they're political. And eventually I couldn't skip anymore, and I'd have to listen to them. And after the 15th or 20th time of listening to the same jokes, you just sort of have to admit to yourself in an ironic distance that it's just funny. And if you're able to step back and laugh at something, I think you're able to really re-examine it. So if you're able to laugh at your own beliefs and how ridiculous they may seem, you're able to actually think about it honestly and re-examine what they are.
Yeah, it sure helps.
Yeah.
So comedy got you out of being a right wing.
Patton Oswalt.
That's awesome.
It definitely helped. That and hormones too. That was part of it.
They started calming down, and then you realized, yeah,
Right,
Fair.
right, exactly.
that's good.
It
It's
is
interesting that the parallels of the Catholic Church imposing guilt on you and shame. I mean, that's such a parallel in other people's deconversion.
Yeah.
And the meeting of other people and realizing that they're actually cool people and they're deserving of your attention and respect. And that's such a common link to other people's deconversion stories.
Right. And the thing, being Catholic or growing up Catholic, right? Most Catholics go to church twice a year, Christmas and Easter. That's it.
Yes.
The rest of the time, you never think about it unless
unless you're a good
someone in the
Catholic.
family dies or grandma comes to town and you got to go to church on Sunday because your parents want to make her think you still go to church regularly.
Yes.
But for me, growing up, I had a lot of skepticism about a lot of the Catholic Church stuff because the modern Catholic doctrine is sort of self-defeating, right? The Catholic Church has accepted evolution in a number of, they don't push back against science like the evangelicals and try to be as insular as the evangelicals and other Christian groups do. So when they admit that a lot of that stuff, in the Old Testament is all bullshit, right? When obviously it's contradicted by modern science, then you start to be like, well, if that's bullshit, how much of the rest of it is? I don't know.
Well, why are we keeping this over here when that's no good?
Right.
Yeah.
You just told me that they put all the animals on a boat, but they didn't really, because we know they couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Penguins.
Poor penguins. There's a lot of shit on that boat. There must have been a lot of shit on that boat.
Yes.
I can't imagine.
Didn't
Piles and piles
doesn't
of shit.
Ken Ham's Ark Park explain that with like
He does.
chutes and tunnels of feces or something
It's like
like
a
that?
poop maze.
Yeah.
Like,
So like that's legit.
There's a poop chute.
It's a poop chute. Yeah. It's
Ken
like
Ham said, so that's
Yeah.
that's totally not where that story dies. The poop is hell.
Honestly, I would love to go to the Ark Park. I
Me
thought
too.
about it because I drove when I went to law school. I live in D.C. now. I drove across the country from California to D.C. and I sort of thought about it. I could swing south and go to the Ark Park on my drive. I ended up not doing it, but I would love to go see that and see how long it takes them to kick me out for laughing at everything.
That'd be so fun.
But you have to give him money then too.
Group trip, let's go! Come
Do
on!
it. Well, I mean, we wouldn't be the first, nor probably. Let's hope that he makes so little money that it's just going to be
Yeah, that he has to shut down. Right?
an arc.
Well, when they close it down because of lack of funding, right, or whatever
Yes.
happens, we can all bid on it together and turn it into like a paintball park, right? I feel like
so
that'd be fun.
cool.
Wow.
Actually,
Right.
yeah. Or like giant laser quest. Like
Yes.
laser,
Yeah, that's
laser
much less
shooting.
messy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Look, I have
yeah.
a book of
That's- and
plans. I have
painful.
investors lined up. I will send you all my paperwork. And we'll get this done.
I'll be an angel investor. Oh, yeah, I think
We're doing a GoFundMe, and you know, it's.
Yeah.
I just really hope everyone comes together on this one.
I think that's something
think
that
we
a
will.
lot of skeptics can get behind. I really think so. It's brilliant.
It's better to think about than modern politics. It's much better to think
Oh
about.
boy, eh?
I desire a time when we can go back to talking about the religious kooks and all that kind of stuff instead of
that's
because
right.
my podcast is mainly a news show, right? Because honestly, I was a political science major in college, and I have a thirst for the news. It's insatiable. I have to constantly listen to the news and watch the news and read the news, so I can't get away from it. But I would love, even on my show, to have more stories that aren't about everything being on fire and how terrible it is. I would love that.
A little less Kanye.
A little less Kanye.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right. I was thinking on the way over here that I would ask you how you keep the depression at bay when you cover the news every week.
Yeah.
You know, I just got a similar question from a listener this week who tweeted at me, how do you two manage to sound so happy all the time and not depressed? It's a lot of drugs. It's a lot of the drugs. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's right.
Liquor. I'm sorry. It's liquor. Liquor's legal in D.C. I can say it.
Yeah.
Not the drugs. Not the drugs, American Bar Association. It's the alcohols.
It's alcohol.
We are a
For
mere
my
5
future
days out
Senate
from
Judiciary Committee meeting, I have to be sure I clear it all up.
Yeah,
You
5
like
days.
beer.
5 days
You
here,
like
5
beer.
days.
yeah, 5 days till pot's legal.
Yes.
Oh,
it's legal.
lucky you.
It's going to be legal here.
Not that I smoke. I haven't in much in years.
We're going to
so.
steal so much money from America's economy. Everyone's going to come here and
Do you think there'll be pot tourism? Is that like a
definitely.
thing?
There
Definitely.
probably
Really?
will be.
Co-
Yeah.
Colorado had tons
I'm
of
not hip with the scene, so I don't.
Me neither.
You know, honestly, I think the United States and I think much of our Western democracies, most of them in particular, are getting to a point where within the next decade or two, marijuana will be legal in most places. I think people are starting to get over that hump and realize it's not as big a deal as it's been made out to be for such a long time. A guy who went to UC Berkeley and let's just say occasionally smoked a little of the ganj. It's not, it's not meth, guys. It's not meth.
Right. Yeah.
But like, people are railing against women having birth control, and that's like not a drug that gets you high. So, are you sure
Yeah.
you're gonna have pot everywhere down there? Like, I maybe have a very skewed view of the states, but
There may be certain states that just
like if
don't go anywhere.
if
eh?
women are
Yeah.
fearing being able to get access to birth control, I'd be really pissed off if like, okay, now marijuana is legal, but I still can't get birth
Birth
control.
control's still not.
One is more of a need for me.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think I have to balance out my optimism about these sort of topics with all the realities of the situation. But I see things moving in a positive direction, is what I think. We're definitely moving in a positive direction. Now that several states have legalized it, Colorado and California especially, I don't think it's going to stay that much longer. I don't think it's going to be illegal for that much longer. I think we're on the right path.
There's talk of, like, at the border, the Canada-U.S. border, they're warning people that border people will ask Canadians going to the U.S., have you ever smoked pot before? Or do you smoke pot? And that it's actually causing people to be banned for life from the United States because they admit to smoking weed. And
yeah, actually, there's been a few cases of that already happening that I remember being reported.
Yes.
People who are Canadian citizens with a A1B visa or something like that, or I don't remember. I have so many friends who are international students and tell me what the visas are all the time, but I can never remember them. But who have work visas and things like that in the United States, and because they go smoke a little weed in Canada and then admit it, they can't get back into the United States, which is absolutely ridiculous to me.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like the key is to lie.
I'm a terrible liar.
Yeah, I'm too much of a goody-goody.
See, my problem is when I'm being questioned by the FBI and they ask, have you ever smoked marijuana? They know I went to UC Berkeley, so it's hard.
You can't even,
It's
yeah,
hard.
you're right.
Yeah, a little bit.
I have a Mennonite conscience, so I have to tell the truth. It's Menno Simon's fault.
Angela, I've never actually smoked weed. Like, actually.
Neither have I. Yeah.
See?
I'm a goody-goody.
Well, I know
totally
we're doing
have.
Wednesday.
We're going to the Art Park and then
5
Colorado.
days.
Yes.
I underage drank like once and got like super emotional and like just gross. I'm like, I'm never doing that again.
I didn't have my first drink till I was 20.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I think we're getting together Wednesday here and have a
You guys
special,
make me feel like a badass.
special
Jeez.
brainstorm
You
edition.
All right,
are
this episode is turning into Tales of Our Youth. That's what's
Tales
going
of,
on
yes,
now.
yes.
It would be so boring for me. It would be like, I used to watch a lot of Star Trek. Well, like Star Trek
I
TNG.
listen to a lot of jazz.
Well, Star Trek TNG was at 1 a.m. every day, and DS9 was at 2 a.m. So
I saw the Dave Brubeck cheater live. The
Holy
Dave Brubeck
shit,
cheater
really?
Live.
But I had my VCR set to record it every night.
I was going to say, did you stay up that
Brubeck's
late
the
on a school
tits.
night? Well, VCR. Okay, yeah, okay.
Wow, VCRs.
I fucking programmed my VCR, and I made sure to get it so like it would get like 2 minutes early
Yeah,
in case they
you have
started,
to.
you know.
Yeah.
I forgot you could program
And I would
them.
fucking I was fucking PVRing before you people.
Yeah, before it was PVR.
This is
Okay.
the
VCR,
astrophysicist physicist talking here.
That's right.
Oh, is that so?
Sorry, there's now a third woman. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just joined. I was late. So we have one token white guy. That's it.
Speaking of Regina, Saskatchewan.
It's true.
So VHS. What is that? You guys want to explain? It's like I don't
not
know what your
millennials, are they?
listenership age is, but
There's like
Kevin was
imagine
born
a big
in
cassette tape.
It's
Oh, wait,
91.
cassette tape.
A cassette tape that plays video instead of sound.
It's just a TiVo.
Yeah,
really-
Now we got to explain what cassette tapes are.
Yeah. Cassette tape is like an iPod.
They're back. The hipsters are using them again. So,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, because
That and vinyl. Who wants to bring vinyl back?
I don't know.
Honestly,
So many people.
That's the thing for
The
sure.
audio is so
I
bad.
don't get that.
so crackly
Here's
and
the thing, I-
delicious. They want to have a roaring fire while they listen to,
The
I
Beatles?
don't know,
Like
the
the pork
Beatles.
rinds of
Crackling
meat.
pop. So here's my thing. I despise hipsters for fairly apparent reasons. But so I have this love-hate relationship with Vice News because
Okay.
I love documentary filmmaking.
Yes.
But I despise hipsters.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Being a metalhead, I was always taught to hate hipsters.
Why do you hate hipsters? I went to this medical clinic today, okay? And the dude walks in, and you know you're getting old when he's like 10 years younger than you. You're like, holy fuck. Like, so this doctor is like 12. And, but he's like a hipster. Like, he's got his tight jeans. And I was so reassured. I don't know what it was, but hipster doctors are, I was like, you're adorable. And he was so sweet. And
I tend to equate hipsters too much with a lot of like woo stuff, though. So I'd be
I've known
concerned.
so many smart hipsters. Okay. No.
See, the ones I know, I guess those are more like hippie, like actual, like the new wave of hipster doctor.
Hipsters are just hip. Like, I fucking love him. We have this computer guy at work who's a hipster. I just love him. He's just the sweetest man.
You can't stereotype all of them, unfortunately.
You can't hate all hipsters.
But there are trends.
They all pickle. That's all I know. They all pickle things.
What's wrong with pickling?
About pickling all the time. And
I pickle.
They like kimchi and shit.
Toast.
What the fuck is wrong with avocado?
Yeah.
Like, no, all this stuff is good.
Avocado's good.
I had some inside some sushi.
These people
today.
are American.
Yeah,
right,
I'm a Californian. We love our avocado.
Yeah.
We love our avocados.
Almonds? You like almonds?
Well, no, there's too many almonds.
But you're Americans. Like,
Thanks, Oprah.
You have the worst humans down there, and you're hating on hipsters. You have Trump supporters, and I don't even understand. You have people who rallied in Charlottesville, and you're hating on hipsters. People who like avocado.
So, funny.
There's a gradient of feelings, right?
I went to UC Berkeley, and there was a story that was, I guess it was big for us locally, but a guy who, we have a hot dog shop in town, which honestly, if you ever go to Berkeley, anyone who's listening, go to Top Dog, just get a hot dog. Get a hot dog or get a bratwurst. It's $2.50, and it is the most delicious thing you'll ever have in your life. It's perfection on a bun. But a story broke that after the Charlottesville rally, one of the guys who worked at our local Top Dog hot dog, there's only two of them in town, Top Dog was at the Charlottesville rally. He was there with the Nazis, and he got fired because of that.
What?
So it was huge news for us in Berkeley, because, we don't like that stuff so much. You may have seen occasional video footage of what happens when Nazis come to Berkeley. We don't like it.
Yeah, that's right.
Was he really like for that, or was it a mistaken thing, or was it?
No, he was legit one of the Charlottesville right-wing protesters.
Yeah,
and I don't want to call him a Nazi, because there were also Klansmen there too. So I don't know who knows which one it was.
Which white supremacist group he belonged to?
Yeah.
Okay, but so sorry. I mean, this is an extreme example, but that's an interesting question. Like, should a guy who works at a hot dog joint, I mean, really, as long as he doesn't espouse his hateful
carve
stuff
swastikas
at work, and he just does his job, should he lose his job over that? I don't know.
Well, there's the whole public perception of that, right? If you don't fit the brand of the company that you work for, then you, I think, have a case to get fired for it.
In the United States, I don't know what the laws are like up there in Canada, but in the United States, most employees are employees at will, which basically means you can be fired for any reason at any time, except for certain protected reasons. Yeah. You can't be fired because you're black or because you're a woman or something like that. But basically for any reason at any time. So if your employer just doesn't like you, you can be fired for that in the United States.
I don't think it's like that here. I think you have to.
What if you're unionized?
It is different for unions. There are different rules there because those are contractual employees usually.
Yeah.
So that is a different category.
I don't know if
they have a collective bargaining agreement that governs how they are hired and fired and things like that.
Okay.
We should totally have a lawyer on the podcast sometime. Now I have I don't know. I mean, it's typical here to give somebody like a 3-month probation period, and in which you can be fired for whatever reason. And then after that, normally no. But I don't know if that's just convention or if that's legal.
I think like from working in the restaurant industry, where there's a lot of people that often need to be fired, but you can't. You have to have like 3 written warnings. You have to have documented reason for firing.
Is that company policy or is that?
I think it's because we had somebody that like went to the labor board and complained, and it was like he showed up late like constantly, but because he wasn't formally written up, you can't prove that he showed up late constantly.
Yeah.
So I think they got their hand slapped on it. Or
how late can you? Okay, I'm always late for work. I'm the worst. So how late can you show up for work and have it? Like, what is that? How late?
Whenever your employer starts writing you up for it, I would say that's a good time to come before that time.
And it also depends on if you're paid hourly or if you're paid a salary. So I mean, that's I think.
Well, I don't I'm paid a salary, but I'm still expected to be there between 8:15 and 4:30.
Yeah.
But I mean, my boss is cool.
I think it depends on the type of job as well.
Yeah, for sure.
You have something that could be done at any time where you could stay half an hour late, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you show up a little late. I think sometimes, unless the boss wants you there on time every day.
I would say at my work, there's just no rhyme or reason for when they're going to need me or want me. So like they'll come looking for me at random times and they're like, I couldn't find you. And it's like, well, I was in the bathroom. People do this sometimes. I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Get off my back.
But like there may be days when like I don't see anybody for like a day or two. Like nobody's looking for me. So it's depends.
So your work is just dependent on when people are looking for you?
Pretty much. In terms of if anyone cares if I'm there, yes. I mean, I got shit to do, and I do the shit, you know, and then that's going to be done at some time. But as to whether or not anyone's looking, it's whether people are like, something's broken, or they need to know the answer to something, or that's when they need you.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
So yes, you could get fired if you start getting written up. But I think they have to like tell you that they're writing you up.
I've never been written up. I'm just like, I just feel bad like every day. I stay later too. It's not like I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean,
but you're not going to get fired. Anyone
cares.
Fine.
Fair. That's fair.
These all sound like rules that people who don't work grunt work have that apply to them. Like, I'm just a laborer. Like, my boss pays me hourly. I got to be there before my shift starts. Stay until after my shift ends.
Yeah. I have a nurse
and
friend.
That's a tricky thing too, because you're not getting paid for that time. But you'll get shit if you're not.
But I don't you find though, like the worst paid jobs, or not the worst paid job, I guess, I don't know, the more lower you are in the totem pole, the less flexibility you have, which is kind of not fair. Because like if you're higher up, presumably you're getting paid more than people in the organization, and then
more should be expected,
more coming and going as you. That's the opposite.
Yeah. It's a trade off too, because when you're lower on the totem pole, then sometimes you don't have that the burden of representing the company or having to answer to, you know, higher ups, etc. And when you're higher up, you can maybe be more flexible when you show up for work, how long your lunches are, but you still have to sometimes you have to be a little bit more sketchy about what you do. And that's why you get paid more. Because you have to be compromising your morals and shit.
I agree. We are all overlooking the hardships of being wealthy, upper middle class white men.
No, but
I think we all need to look at the true underprivileged class, upper class.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, there's
the Brett Cavanaughs of the world. Single tier.
I fear for the boys of our next generation.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a scary time to be a man.
It's a scary time.
It's terrifying.
Sometimes I don't even
think it
think
could happen to any of us who sexually harassed
any time.
women.
Yeah. I don't think you can even grope women anymore. Like, never mind, pin them down and sexually assault them. You can't even grope them.
No.
Or do anything.
You can't touch their
Republicans
ass.
just want to take us back to a better, more simple time when you can sexually harass anyone you want as long as you are a white man. Okay.
Yes.
That would be better.
Yeah.
Better for all involved, especially the three women at the table. Fabulous times.
Men of color can probably harass other women of color.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, they probably had that.
Yeah.
You know,
because women of color are still
did I not
below.
Did I not mansplain this well enough to you?
Yeah.
Did you understand what I was saying?
We need a little more.
I'm just expanding your Venn diagram.
Actually. No.
I am white man. Hear me roar, okay?
Yeah.
We do. All the time. For years.
Oh, man. Yeah. So,
you have some podcasts.
What's your favorite news story from this week?
Oh, God. How could you even? It's all bad. Would you like the worst
favorite?
ones? Is that?
Yeah.
What do you like? What's the biggest train wreck?
Yeah, that's better.
What are the rabbit holes you've been down this week, Kevin?
Yeah, we want to know. Tell us.
Oh, God. This week, it's been a lot. It has been a lot. So there's, Brett Kavanaugh is now sitting on the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yes.
And just today, every Friday, the oral arguments for the Supreme Court actually come out in podcast form. Put them out.
Sorry.
I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't say it. Sorry, continue about the oral arguments. Angela wants to know more.
Yeah. Sorry. So they actually come out, and for law nerds like me, right, who are interested in what kind of justice Brett Kavanaugh is going to be, because we basically know, but A lot of people have a sort of overly cynical view of the way that the law works and that the Supreme Court works and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So, but there is more differentiation than a lot of people think there is between even the conservative justices on the court. I would say they are closer together as far as ideology goes than what are considered the liberal justices. But so it's interesting now to get to hear the kinds of questions he asks and see what kind of justice he is. And so far, the decision that I've reached is that whereas Justice Gorsuch, the first Supreme Court justice that Donald Trump appointed, is sort of a classic originalist, he's not as much of a political hack. He actually has principles he believes in, and that's why he rules the way he does. And he actually has a logical, legal reason for doing so. I just completely disagree with his legal ideology. Brett Kavanaugh seems like much more of a political hack already. And so we'll see what really happens when he starts writing opinions and we get to read the reasoning behind what he decides. But just based on the questions and the way they behave in oral argument, that's my impression so far of that. There are some cases coming up to worry about a little bit, right? So we're all stressing out here in the United States because it's like, oh, more people are going to get fucked by this Supreme Court. That's just great. So we're all keeping an eye on those. There was one argued this week that I actually got to hear the advocate argue before it actually went to the Supreme Court because the law school I go to, they actually come here to argue Supreme Court cases before they go to the court and argue them. One side or the other does.
So is it like a practice type thing, or how does that work?
It is.
Okay.
It is. They sit before a panel of usually 2 or 3 professors and a couple of attorneys in the area from big law firms. They all come here and take part in this. Because the law community in like the Supreme Court arena is pretty tight, right? There's not a whole lot of people who get to argue before the Supreme Court, and those who do, they know each other, and so this happens here. And so I got to there's an ACLU advocate, actually a Asian woman, which is not very common for someone to be arguing before the Supreme Court. So it's always cool to see an advocate like that who's going to be before the Supreme Court. But I thought she was performed fantastically. She was really amazing. I don't think their argument's very good. They're arguing for illegal immigrants, and it's a very technical statutory interpretation case that's going on. And so it's actually very boring and dry unless you're into that kind of stuff. But I still think they are going to lose based on what I heard in the oral argument and everything. But so, yeah, Supreme Court, the biggest news in the United States right now, although I feel like already, a week after all the drama, everyone has almost completely forgotten. And things are just continuing.
Was it forgotten or
we're on to
given
different
up?
things now.
Like, for me, it was just like, I can't even anymore. I'm done with this whole Brett Kavanaugh bullshit and just stopped caring about it. Like, but I also don't live in this. Like, I care about the consequences that may come of it. Yeah. But I have to take a step back and, like, not read every single thing to do with that man for a time for my own sanity, right? So I think that quietness is maybe the preservation of sanity.
Like, I was, like, ingesting that shit, like, I don't know, like you know when you can't stop eating Doritos?
Yeah, just
and then
refreshing.
You feel sick, right?
You eat
it was
so
like
much sushi,
that.
And then you're not
it was
full,
like that.
and then
like,
you keep eating more, and then like an hour later, you're like...
And then I kept eating more, and I was like, "Stop the Brett Cat! I gotta watch." It was like it was horrible.
And your mouth is raw.
It was a train wreck. It was
an
absolute train wreck.
Stabby chips.
Yeah, it was a dumpster
but
fire.
I think we learned from it at the very least that this Republican Party, as it exists right now, is unwilling to ever, under any circumstances, accept allegations against their own, and they will do everything they can to fight against them because they are backed into a wall, and they're hissing like a raccoon backed into a corner. That's the best way to describe it. They are raccoons backed into corners.
Okay, or maybe
you got one caught in your garage, and you got to get it out, so you kind of get a broom and poke at it a little bit.
No, but one stole my bacon when we were camping. I was really pissed.
Bastard.
But it was still cute.
Stole your bacon?
Like a whole pack of bacon, and then a bunch of magpies ate it in the middle of the night. And then we didn't hear magpies anymore, so they obviously all died from ingesting my raw bacon.
Okay, wait, coming back to the train wreck, can I just postulate something?
That sounds like...
Can I woman-splain something?
Please do. I want to hear you, woman.
I don't know if I'm woman asking something. Is it possible that it's not... that there's a subset or even a majority of Republicans, and especially Republican voters, who because we assume that they watched this and saw that it's total bullshit and that he must be lying and that, you know, she must be like, she's totally believable. It makes no sense. But, or can they really just not see it? They just know this innocent man has been like, can they really be buying it? I don't know that it's necessarily as cynical as you're saying. I think they may really just be buying the bullshit and truly feel that that Kavanaugh is. I know, but it's a confirmation of a judge. I thought you were making a joke. Sorry. Okay. Anyway,
that should have been an episode name. That should have been an episode name.
Episode name. We have one now. Confirmation bias. Yes. Anyways. All right. I'm just saying, I kind of believe, like, when people were saying, what's his name, Graham was getting all flustered. Yeah, he was getting all flustered. Oh, he put on this show. I don't know. I think he was buying his own bullshit, and I think Kavanaugh was buying his own bullshit too. I think he genuinely doesn't remember what happened because to him, his safety wasn't threatened. He didn't. You know, it was something. It was a Tuesday for him, right? Like it was just. You know, I think he did it, and I think it just wasn't.
It didn't register.
She was so unimportant and insignificant to him, and he just doesn't remember.
Act,
and he just he's totally entitled to.
Well, and even like
since
like I don't know if Kevin, if you noticed, there was some comments made on social media about Kavanaugh's wife's body language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that has been floating around all day,
and how she just is scared of him, and just the way that she just the body language expert, quote unquote, who just dissected her behavior in that video with Trump, was that she was uncomfortable and didn't want to be there. And that
could be for a number of reasons. Like, you could just be uncomfortable by being on camera, or you could be uncomfortable at how douchey your husband is. There's a multitude of reasons.
Absolutely.
The tension in the room.
A lot of these sorts of things.
All of the above.
I always, you know, whenever it's like body language expert on TV talking about something, I always tend to go,
it's like a handwriting expert.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and that's
so.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so, you know, if you take any amount of footage of people, you're going to find moments where they're looking awkward or weird or something like that.
Yeah.
For example,
90%
Melania Trump. Most of the time, she's standing there smiling her vacant, I have no soul anymore smile. I've sold it all. I'm just completely bereft of all of emotion and moral. I'm just an empty human being, empty shell of a human being.
Yes.
But sometimes, you know, people don't smile 24/7, and people, you know, sometimes look a little upset, even if they're sitting there being completely normal. So we saw that. We see that all the time when she's standing next to Donald Trump, and all of a sudden she stops smiling because, you know, nobody smiles 24/7. I do honestly believe she's unhappy with her marriage because
how could you not
Donald Trump?
How could you not?
But, you know, I think it's on that sort of level possibly. And I saw the video, and I think she looked a little uncomfortable. But like you said, there could be any number of reasons for that. So I always hesitate to jump to those sort of conspiracy theory-esque type stuff. Yeah. And it's also possible that she believes the allegations against her husband because she probably knows him better than just about anybody else. So it is also possible that it's true, and she believes Dr. Blasey Ford.
It's possible. It's possible. I think further to Lisa's point about Republicans just being very devoted to their party and you know, just
no, I know more than the party. I think they're devoted to I think their frame of mind, the way they see the world is fundamentally different to how, say, for example, someone like me sees the world. To me, I see the Ford testimony. I see, or what, it wasn't whatever it was. Was it okay, thank you. So I see that, and I see Kavanaugh, like Kavanaugh's reaction, and it's, I don't know. Did anyone read the op-ed by Andrew Sullivan, who's kind of a centrist of right gay guy? He's worked with the Clintons, but he's also he's been a Republican supporter. But anyways, so he's a journalist now, I guess, makes editorial comments, and sometimes I really agree with him, and to me, just totally got a totally different view of what happened. He was like, and Kavanaugh reacted exactly how an innocent man would. And I'm like, I don't understand how you can plausibly read the situation that way. Like, it's so confusing to me because I see it and I'm like, no, there's no other, and I don't even think it's partisan. I'm just like, there's no other logical explanation except that this woman who has literally nothing to gain by doing this is telling the truth. And this man who has literally everything to gain by lying about it. And it obviously feels like he never did anything wrong, probably because he doesn't think of himself that way. Yeah, he's just, no. But I think that there's literally just a different way of seeing the world. And I don't even think it's partisan. It's just your knee-jerk reaction to how you, I don't know. You remember that thing on the internet a few years ago where is it a gold and blue dress or is it a black and whatever green dress? Remember that? It's like that. Right?
Yeah. It was a flashback to, I watched much of the Clinton and Trump debate and was like, oh my God, like she's got, like, he was just ridiculous, like wrong, like all the things that came out of his mouth was just complete and utter nonsense. I'm like, okay, I feel a lot better. He's not going to win. And then I don't know if it was Samantha Bee or something where I watched where they had like cameras set up at different bars where there was like the Hillary supporters, the Clinton supporters, and they interviewed people. And the guys on the Trump side were like, yeah, he totally owned her. Yeah, he totally won that. And I was like, did they watch the same thing?
Exactly.
But he like legitimately was like, I don't think that was a paid actor. He legitimately thought that he won that debate and had like the best debate skills ever and said the best points and had the best words. Right? Yeah. And so it's just the same thing. Like, to me, it was the same thing. It's like he was so passionate and he defended himself so well and he like worked so hard to get into the school he did. And like, so it was the exact same thing. It's like, yeah, they completely believe it because that's just how their brain works.
I think a lot of it comes down to this massive amount of tribalism that we've built up.
Yeah. Yes.
Not just in the United States. I think in most places now there's this separation between right and left, where and from my perspective, and maybe just this is me just being where I am now, but I like to think that because I've had the opportunity to be one of those guys, one of those right wing guys, that I have a little bit of a more nuanced view of the way it works. But for all the amazing things the internet has given us, it has allowed us also to create our own discrete and insular communities, which is something far more than we've ever been able to before, right?
Yes.
To the point where you choose what comes to you. You choose who you read. You choose what you watch. You choose all that kind of stuff. And because of confirmation bias, most people only choose those things that conform to the beliefs that they have.
Yeah.
And so we get things like Breitbart and the Daily Caller and Fox News and all of these, which have allowed this incredible, strong, insular bubble to form on the right. And one of the reasons I don't think it's as strong on the left is because everyone I know, every liberal I know, watches Fox News on a regular basis because we want to know what those nutbags are saying.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a stepping out of the bubble that you just don't see from people on the right who scream that CNN is evil and all that kind of stuff.
But are they...
I think one of the other big differences is that whereas, and I always say this, cable news is not news. It's not fucking news. It's entertainment. It's fucking entertainment. Stop treating it as news. Get a newspaper subscription, please. But I will watch, for example, the hurricane the other day. But it's made for things like the hurricane the other day, right? When you get really incredible video footage that people want to see and stuff like that. That's what that kind of, it's 9/11 is what 24-hour cable news is made for. When there is news about a huge event that is happening 24 hours, that's when that comes in and they're actually doing, really impressive, good reporting.
Like that one guy that was like pretending that it was gale force winds and those two dudes behind him just strolling down the street.
Yeah. But most of the time, there's not a big 24-hour story to talk about. And what they're talking about are stories that were broken by real news outlets. So they're talking about stories that came out in the Washington Post. They're talking about all these other things. And they're doing opinion work, which, look, I have a news podcast where essentially what I do is opinion work. But I also try and get the basic facts of the story out there and talk about a variety of things that don't get brought up by the mainstream cable news and where people get most of their stories from. But I think the difference between, CNN, MSNBC, all that kind of stuff on the left, and then Fox News is growing up watching Fox News every day. I get home, and there's my dad on the couch with Fox News on. That was my childhood.
Really?
Yes, that was it. And I
like child
sit
abuse.
there and watch it with him a lot of time. And one thing that you don't see on those what people consider left-wing, cable news channels and stuff, CNN, MSNBC, you don't see the anchors sitting there telling you that the other side hates America and hates freedom, which is what you legitimately get from Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly and Tucker Carlson and all those right-wing figures on Fox News and wherever else. they actually say those words.
Yeah.
They say that the left hates the United States and they hate freedom. They hate Jesus or God or whatever the hell they want to talk about. They talk about how much that side hates the thing that you, the viewer, are supposed to like. And that builds up the sense of they are not just the other, they are the enemy. And we should hate them because of what we're being told they are. And so that leads to that sort of insular, my side is right, everyone else is lying. And that's where we get back to the Kavanaugh thing, right? Everyone else is lying. Everyone else has an agenda, because another part of it is that they see the worst of themselves in the other side. They know that if they had the opportunity, they would try to do this thing. They would try and come up with a fake sexual assault charge, I guess. I would imagine some of them probably would. I can think of a few people who probably would. Project Veritas, they would try and do that.
Yeah.
They did try and do that, actually, now that I think about it. But they imagine the worst of themselves in the side that they're against. They imagine that, if we would do that, why wouldn't they do it as well? They can't imagine that the other side has moral foundations or an actual purpose to what they're doing. I think that's another huge part of it.
I never thought of it. That's such an interesting. It's like when you're in a relationship, the other person keeps accusing you of cheating on them, and it turns out they're cheating on you, right? Like it's like the or whatever. Like
paranoid about that.
In a relationship, you can often be accused
of
the thing the other person's doing.
Yeah.
Well, and that is just another form of indoctrination, right? Where if you say that the other people are the enemy, that ensures that people that are listening to you just won't even listen to the other side because they're like scary, they're bad.
But the idea
Let's not
that
even give them our ear, right?
But the idea that it's more plausible because you would do that if you were on their side, so they would certainly do it to you. That's fascinating. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I showed up today.
I have to give credit for that to my co-host Benedict, because he's the one that originally came up with that phrase.
No, don't do it. Steal that shit.
The worst of yourself and the others. But it's something we talk about on our show from time to time, because it comes up obviously with the sort of news cycle that we have in 2018 United States, which apparently is 1957 Alabama now.
What the fuck?
I don't know if you all saw this story, but there's a trial ongoing. This is something else I wanted to talk about. There's a trial ongoing right now where a child, I think this was in, I don't remember what state it was in, but a 15-year-old African-American child had his phone taken away by his mom and then missed his school bus to get to high school. And so he went over to a house and knocked on the door to try and ask for directions, because he didn't remember the route that the bus usually took. He wanted to ask how he could get to school. And the woman who answered the door started screaming immediately that she was being robbed, and her husband came down with a gun. This child starts sprinting away from the house. And the reason this comes up today, this story broke a while ago, but it came up today because the video came out. They showed the video from the security camera that these people had on their house to the jury. And so after it's shown to the jury, it can be released to the public. And what it shows is the child starts running away. The man comes out of his house with a shotgun, sees the child running away, takes his time to aim, and then fires at the child from behind who is running away from his home. And so that's why I say we live in 1957 Alabama.
Wait. So did he die?
No, the child did not die. No, luckily. Thankfully.
Thank you. I was so... Well, we had a similar case to that here a couple years ago. We had some First Nations people go on to a white farmer's land, and it was like a long story, but basically a truckload of 6 of them went onto the land because their truck was breaking down, or they were looking for directions. In the end, one of them ended up being shot and killed. So this happened not far from here at all, and it was divisive in this country.
Yeah. Because it wasn't this that they were looking for help. It was they were there to steal things, and they had stole things from other farmers called another farmer. It was a whole big
and it calls into question the perception of the farmer versus the perception of the First Nations people and what they thought. Anyway, it's
similar
tribalism. White genocide is real, everyone. Come on.
In this case, I think it was more like it was racist bias. I think that was
Yeah. We don't have the death penalty in Canada for anything. So when somebody dies,
that's why we commit crimes a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Like me, I'm going to go murder someone after this.
So much crime.
Sorry, Cory, go ahead.
We apologize too much. That's one.
So then, when somebody gets shot for when there are suspicious suspected of being thieves or whatever, then it calls into a lot of question about castle law that people think we should have.
Right. If you got, this is true in the States, right? If somebody breaks into your house and you want to protect your property, can you shoot and kill them?
That is not true in all states.
Okay then. Gee, not all the states.
Not all states.
Only 48 of the 50
This
states.
is why we broke it up into 50, so we can say hashtag not all states, right?
Not all states.
Shit.
But what you're talking about, and this came up famously in the Trayvon Martin case of I don't remember how many years ago that was now.
Wow, like 7, 8.
Wow, yeah, that was a while ago. I was either in grade school or high school. I don't remember where. But the guy who shot Trayvon Martin claimed a defense under what was called in Florida stand your ground.
That's right.
Which is the idea that if you're being attacked, you have a right to use lethal force.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Mm-hmm. And that is extended in some states to the concept of if someone walks onto your land, you have a right to use lethal force against them, which I think is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, we don't have
absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, we don't have that, but a lot of people thought that he deserved to die because he was there, maybe doing.
Some people might have even thought that
that's not how it works. Yeah, 100%. You have a right to defend your property, not with someone's life. That's not how that works.
No.
You can lock
so
it
there
up.
was another case like this a few months ago. Where a large African-American man pushed a guy to the ground because the guy was harassing his girlfriend in a store parking lot. He walked up to the guy, and this is, again, on security camera, and he walked up to the guy, shoved him to the ground, and took a few steps back, and while he's standing there looking at the guy on the ground, the guy pulls out a gun and shoots him to death. So it's a similar, and the sheriff in that case decided not to even press charges against the individual because that state had a stand your ground law. And that's what was decided. And we see these things on juries as well, I think. I think it definitely plays a part in the way the jury thinks about these sorts of things. If it's a black guy who attacks a white guy, and this stand your ground thing, the idea is if you are in fear for your life, you have a right to defend yourself. It's sort of how it's phrased in some states.
Well, that's a thing. Cases. That's a thing where if you're in imminent danger of being killed, you can kill someone here. That's allowed.
With reasonable force, though. You
mean,
can't. If somebody pushes you down, you can't take a gun.
That person's just picnicking beside you.
Mm-hmm. But once the threat is neutralized.
If that person is native, you can shoot them. So that's our rules here.
That's what it seems to be like here, yeah.
Unfortunately.
But, the case I was talking about with the guy who pushed the guy to the ground, right? For example, in that case, they said he was justifiably in fear for his life. By a guy who pushed him and then stepped away.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. And I think that plays into juries' minds because in this country, we still have mostly white juries. And that jury's going to be sitting there and go, nah, I'd be afraid of that black guy too.
Yeah.
Why?
And so I think that goes into the calculation.
Sorry. Why do you have mostly white juries? That's weird. You do not have a mostly white.
The population is mainly white. The population is mainly white,
but in certain places it's got to be way in general, wherever you are, you would think the jury, if selected at random, would be a cross section of.
Right, but is it just
society.
Like here where you can get out of jury duty?
Here's the trick.
You can't.
Okay, I want to hear tricks.
The trick.
Leave your job. You can't.
Comes from the registered voters list.
Okay, that's where it comes from there. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why we end up with mostly white juries because we know that's who votes.
Yeah.
And there was an issue here in the Colton Buchi case that we were just talking about. They select jury through health card numbers. That's what they use here, and the trial was in a place, and it's just a random choosing,
right?
But there was arguments that it was a heavily white jury.
It was,
yeah.
But
it was.
They go through a selection process as well.
Yeah.
And eliminated a lot of
if the trial is in town and you live on a reserve and you don't have adequate means of getting there, you can get out of jury duty. If you don't have childcare, if you don't have a job that allow you to leave, all of that, and that's going to disproportionately make your jury middle class or wealthy class white folks.
And if you
the society
are able to get out of work and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I get paid jury duty. I don't have children. I have yet to be called for jury duty, but I'd be absolutely on that jury, easy peasy. Right?
Can we just agree, like, just at the very least, to like put in maybe a petition to the government to just rename it the not so much justice system, something like that, something along those lines. Like, don't really expect any justice system, like something like that, please.
Yeah.
Well,
to put a sort of happy note, right? I don't know if this is really a happy note, but on that story I started with of the guy shooting at the black kid running away from his house, he was found guilty today. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
And is that just because there's video evidence? Because
probably to be honest.
Well, because otherwise, right? You still have innocent until proven guilty, and you also down there beyond a reasonable doubt, right?
Although would you not have the evidence of a bullet in his back?
That's just that you killed him, not that you didn't kill him in self-defense.
He didn't kill him. He said he didn't kill him, but it's not like he shot him in the front part of his body.
But it's still going to be boy said.
Did you watch The Staircase though?
No.
Is
that a movie?
Kevin, did you watch that?
Is that the one about somebody being pushed down a staircase?
Yes.
I've seen it, but I have seen like the thumbnail for it on one of the streaming services, but I don't think I've watched it.
It's kind of interesting. It's a bit of a dumpster fire at times, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah.
But
so that's a little bit of a happy note on that story, and another happy note in the United States this week actually.
Yeah.
Was that the Washington State Supreme Court ruled the death penalty unconstitutional under their state constitution there. So that's another little bit of a bright spot.
Can I ask, that 15-year-old case, was the jury predominantly white there too?
I don't know. I would imagine yes. I would imagine probably yes.
Because then it's an actual bright spot.
But this video, and I'll send you guys the video later if you want to see it. The video is damning, right? Because it shows the delay between kid starts. I mean, this kid's fast. This kid is booking it. And he is running away as fast as he can before the guy is even out the front door. And the guy shambles out the front door without a shirt on and takes time to pull up his gun and fire at this kid who is running away as fast as he can.
That dude watched too much Back to the Future. Doesn't the principal do that when Marty goes back to the bad 80s, right? And Principal Strickland comes out and goes, "Get back here, you slacker!" And he takes some shots at him with a shot. Doesn't he do that? Is that a thing?
I don't remember.
I think you're completely right. Yeah.
I think there might be a...
Yes, that happens.
Could be.
All right. Oh, good times.
I think that's a good spot to leave this section of the show. Where can people find your stuff?
Yeah, if they want to find more of me and more of my partner Benedict, they can go over to kevinandbenedict.com, which is our main website where all the shows get posted and everything there. You can also follow us on Twitter at Kev and Benedict. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for This Week in News with Kevin and Benedict. And, of course, you can listen to both podcasts on all the podcast spots, right? iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all those. This Week in News with Kevin and Benedict, as well as This Week in History with Kevin and Benedict. Different inflection for each of the shows.
Nice.
A little different.
Nice.
That's good. I like that.
Can I quickly, before you go, can I quickly ask something? Sorry, maybe you discussed
how
this.
I came up with the most creatively named podcast ever?
Yes. No.
Yeah.
No.
What are you going to say? Lisa?
Maybe you discussed it earlier, but why do you have such like a great radio voice? Like, do you have training for
smoke
this?
cigars, right? You smoke cigars.
Did you go to Seth Andrews School of Broadcasting?
What was that?
Did you go to the Seth Andrews School of Broadcasting?
Oh man, no, I wish my voice was that silky and it's silky but raspy he has. I don't know what it is exactly.
Your voice is great. Where does it come from?
You're pretty similar,
You pretty sultry radio voice, dude. It's
we only have Angela here.
I'm all they got.
Yeah. She's our best voice.
Yeah.
You know, what I would say, if people want the advice, if they really want to know how to get a voice like this, cigars, smoke cigars and inhale. You got to inhale the cigar.
No, good.
Just
if I had known that would be the answer, I would not have asked you the question.
So all the Captain Blacks I smoked when I was 19. Okay.
I've also never smoked a cigarette.
Me neither. But I work at a cancer center. Don't fucking smoke people. Bad for you. I do not want to see you at my work.
It's not bad after a night of drinking, right? That's when it doesn't count. It doesn't count when you're outside of the bar and you just bum one off somebody.
Is that the only thing that doesn't count?
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds dangerously close to like...
Oh, jeez.
I was in a
Kevin,
pub
are you going to answer that?
And it said like danger men drinking
counts.
on like a sign above. I'm like, it's been there for like ever, right? But it's in like a Leopold's Tavern. I'm like,
look, I think
but looking
really,
at it now in today's light,
for Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
It's
okay, but seriously, don't smoke. Okay, you can.
Okay,
it's been a pleasure, Kevin.
Look, I hope to come back and talk to all you guys again when my country is not being run by people whose life goal is to get an over-the-pants handy from Ann Coulter. So maybe someday.
Over the pants handy!
Nice.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Well said.
Like, why?
And not entirely worth it. Like,
Well, over the pants. Like, just commit already. Anyways, sorry.
less
right.
messy though.
Thanks, Kevin, for joining us.
For you.
Better contained, I guess.
We will cut the show out now
For your pants.
We will go to an ad break.
Yeah, I think it's time to go on that. Here we go.
If you like what we're doing and want to help us keep the lights on, go become a patron at patreon.com/brainstorm podcast. You can hear the bonus half hour that we record every episode and get a shout out when you support the show. Become a patron for just $1 an episode at patreon.com/brainstorm podcast. Or you can support the show by ordering a t-shirt, mug or other gear from our store at caffeepress.ca/brainstorm podcast gear. If you can't afford to become a patron or buy gear, then why not give us a rating or write a review on iTunes or Stitcher? Every rating makes it easier for people to find us. Thanks for your support.
Hey y'all, this is Tucker from the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. And I might live in a beer can, but I ain't no inbred redneck. And if you listen to my podcast, I'm gonna learn you something. And no, I ain't talking about how to marry your cousin and not have kids with 16 fingers and stuff like that. I mean, I actually talk about real stuff and teach people where the Bible stole its stories from. So y'all give me a listen, would you? Thank you.
We're going to go on to some feedback because we're not going to do a book reading this week.
Okay.
On the Twitters, at Jesse Hoffner, listened to the last episode where we read back his previous feedback, and he mentioned that he wanted to clarify that trickle-down economics is still pretty awful, and he said it's slow violence. It's not the kind of violence we typically think of when we talk about harm. Still very bad and definitely a form of violence. And I was talking to somebody that the same day that episode released, and there's subjective violence is like what we think of when we think of violence, where it's like an actor is causing direct harm, and slow violence is the kind of like society starving the poor people type thing where we don't see it, but. I have a lot to learn about that yet. Apparently, there's a book out by Slavoj Zizek that is quite interesting on the subject. And at Jeff Nords tweeted out our episode with Dusty Smith and said, interesting episode of At Brainstorm Pod featuring Dusty Smith. He's an interesting guy. I appreciate his integrity, how he admits old mistakes and missteps. It's not often that people are so willing to confront their own growth and keep moving forward. Yeah, it was a good interview, I thought.
Yeah, because I didn't really know anything about him, and I appreciate it, too, that he said, like, yeah, I was totally like this and getting caught up in that and, realized I was being stupid or, like, it was really nice that I super appreciate that more than somebody trying to hide that portion of their life.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, I'm not like that now. Like, he fully admits, like, yeah, I was totally like that. And
yeah, I've moved on. I learned better.
I changed and why I changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should go back and listen to that.
All right. New patrons. I guess in the chat, Leto says, don't read Zizek.
Well, now I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Who do we read?
New patrons. I mentioned it in the Skeptic Voices episode, but I wanted to give our latest patron a shout out on this one as well. Thank you, Freethinker215. And he became a patron at the Critical Thinker level, which gives him access to the entire show at once with no commercials. but also with the songs included. And he gets access to the patron-only Discord room, and he will get the bonus content that we usually record after the show.
Is it a patron-only Discord room?
Yeah, there is a patron-only Discord room.
Oh.
Nobody's ever in there, though.
They're in this one.
But you have access to it.
You have access to it. And I was thinking I could monitor the patron-only Discord chat and give them preferential question treatment if they have questions for our guests or for the show. But
gotta get on that.
That's an idea for future episodes. I want to thank our top patrons. Dustin Doesn't Suck That Much, Daryl Goosen, Aaron Young, William Driver, Positively Skeptical, and the Flying Spaghetti Monster, Sauce Be Upon Him. Becoming a top patron means you donate at the skeptic level, which is $5 per episode or higher on Patreon. We have one sort of review.
Sort of.
Yeah. Facebook changed their rating system, so you don't give stars and reviews anymore, but you give a recommendation or whatever. And Janae Graber gave a recommendation and said, I really enjoy listening to all of your podcasts while commuting and to and from work and even during work. Great discussions, diversity in topics, and comedy. Which is cool.
They are hilarious.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Glad we could interfere with your productivity.
That's right.
During work.
Not necessarily. It might help this person.
Might help.
Motivating.
Yeah, that's right.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. Plugging stuff. I'm going to let other people go first. Dave?
Yeah. Actually, I do want to plug something here. I should get all the details out here. I remember I mentioned those short films that, I guess From Up North was one of them.
Right.
There's another short film called Gas Can. And anyway, both of these films are playing in London, I guess now I'm told.
Nice.
Gas Can.
At the 12th Native Spirit Indigenous Film Festival.
Nice.
This is going to take place next Friday, which is, I don't know the date, I think October 19th, I think. So if you're in London and you want to see two films I worked on, that's the place to go. Friday, October 19th, in London at the School of Advanced Study Senate House, something or other, on Mallet Street, whatever that is.
That's cool, man.
Anyways, so yeah, we have someone in France, not in London, unfortunately, so that doesn't work right now. But
yeah,
if you download the podcast later and you're in London, then yes.
I will have this part out on Friday.
There you go.
The 19th.
Oh damn! You gotta rush.
Get out there now.
Rush to see this.
Yeah, shit.
Quick!
Whatever. But it's interesting.
Very cool.
That's my only plug.
Cool. Anybody else doing the things online?
I had plugged this last time, but I'll plug it again. There is a talk here in Regina, the University of Regina, on Wednesday, October 24th at 7 p.m. in the Education Auditorium. A very well-known Canadian astronomer named Dr. Victoria Caspi will be giving a lecture on the transient radio sky. She is very cool, really smart. You'll definitely learn something, so you should totally check it out. Lecture's free. So
Cool.
I have no skin in this game, but I'm going to go because it's awesome.
Super cool. I don't have anything to plug.
Yeah, I don't do anything plug-worthy.
I'm super boring.
All right.
Oh, wait, I have one more thing.
Have a list.
I will be giving a lecture for physics 319 at the University of Regina. So if you're one of the 5 students in that class, I'm going to fucking see you there on October 25th.
There you go.
Can I come audit that class?
Can I?
You can.
I'm just kidding.
Totally do it.
That would be awesome.
Hey, Dan's plugging something.
Got to show up, Dan, to plug shit. You know that?
Geez, Dan.
CFI Regina, our next meetup will be November 6th to correspond with midterm elections in the U.S. Beers and follow the election results.
What about the provincial royal municipality elections? What about those?
Yeah, Dave.
Why do we have to be so U.S. politics centric?
All right.
I'm poking the bear.
I have just released an episode of Skeptic Voices where I had sort of an afternoon chat with Stephanie Zvan. I have an episode coming out tomorrow coming out soon of Skeptic Voices, where I talked to Michael L. Smith, formerly of the Poorly Summarized podcast. I also recorded with Jason Noble for a new show that I'm working on. I will announce that when I have it up on iTunes. And I'm also kind of proud of the Skeptic Studio episode that will be out on Monday morning with my guest H.J. Hornbeck, and we talked about the new attempted hoaxing of the social sciences by Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay, and Helen Pluckrose. Yeah. So we went through that.
How many shows do you have, dude?
How do you have time from?
I just constantly am recording and working on audio. It never ends, actually.
Wow, you should take your girlfriend on a date.
Yeah, she actually has to want to leave the house after she works. Teaching is very tiring and stressful.
All-encompassing.
It is. It is. I don't envy those people.
No, that's right. All right, outro music.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have it.
There we go.
Dave's asleep at the wheel.
I was chatting over here in the chat room.
Oh, yeah. Okay. For all the things, you can check out the show notes at our website, brainstormblog.net, and our hosting page, thebrainstormpodcast.com. Thanks to our financial supporters, Kayla, Janet, Kim, Stephanie, Zach, the Utah Outcasts, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Bob Glenn, Destin Doesn't Suck That Much, Magnus, several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave, Positively Skeptical, Rob, Keith, the Podunk Polymath, Larry, the Flying Spaghetti Monster, Sosby upon him, and Freethinker 215. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. Or go buy some stuff at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. We're on every 2 weeks on brainstormradio.net. Our next live show is October 26th, and our guest is Jillian Scudder.
Oh, Jillian!
Astrophysicist and now author.
And former office mate of me.
There you go.
Oh, wow. Like in studio or no?
No, like we went to grad school together and we sat behind each other slaving away.
No, I mean, like, is she going to be here in studio?
No, she's in, like, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. So it'll be a long distance interview.
She's smart. Nice. She writes books and she writes articles for Forbes.
Yeah. I want to give a big thanks to Kevin for joining us. You can find more of his stuff at kevinandbenedict.com. I'd like to thank my panel, Lisa, Angela, Sarah, and Dave.
You're welcome.
You're welcome for talking exactly the right amount.
Yes, that's right. I also want to thank Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from the Embrace the Void podcast for doing the voiceover for our intro. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Kepper-Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads, and thanks to Jason Camo for our outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our subreddit, sign up for our newsletter, share the show, and spread the word. The more you share, comment, and like our stuff, the more it helps the show grow. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.